So as I said, we already went with all these things like system exception काय आहे किंवा what is the system exception, uh, type of the exception we already seen that, right? Try catch finally block, that also we have already seen. The difference between throw and retro activity, that is also we have seen, right? What is the throw, why this throw activity is used, and why retro is used. Okay, so today we will see this remaining part like continue on error, terminate workflow, retry scope, and global exception handler. Global exception handler we will see later on, but today these three topics we will cover, right? So first of all, what do you mean by this continue on error, right? Continue on error, it's, you can say it's again, you can say a technique to handle the exceptions, right? So handle the exceptions. What do you mean by the definition of the exception? Whenever my bot is failing due to something, due to some any technical reason or any business reason, right? So what should my bot do on that particular case? My bot will not stop there because of that exception. My bot will proceed further, right? That is the main theme, or that is the main concept of whole of the, can say, exception handling. Okay, so that is the main objective of whole this exercise, right? So here now, for example, on what is the continue on error, right? The continue on error, it's an property basically, right? It's an property of UiPath activity. We'll see how we can use this continue on error and how we can deal with this property. Okay, so like for example, if I'll take one click activity, okay, so I'll take this click activity, okay. And before this, for example, I have a lot of activities in my program, right? For example, here I'm using one right line activity here. This is my first activity, okay. So first activity, right? This is my second activity, and again I have, for example, the third activity. So I'll just put it's like third activity, right? And this is the click activity. So here I need to click on somewhere, right? So here I'll just use this click and I'll just put something inside this, or you can say I'll just simply click on this notepad application. Okay, that's the main, that is my you can say a small program. Okay, now if I'll execute this, okay, now for example I have this notepad with me, so it will execute as per expectation. My this click activity will click on this notepad basically, right? Because that notepad is open and that is fine, right? So it's executed successfully. It will not give me any error, right? Now what I'll do, I want to create a system exception here, or I want to intentionally I want to create exception here. So what I'll do here, so I'll just minimize this and I'll just close that, you can say, notepad. Or what I'll do, I'll intentionally make some changes inside the, you can say, selector. I'll just delete this, I shall delete this, and also I'll just delete this. That means I have intentionally made some wrong selector inside that particular selector line. Okay, now if I'll execute this, okay, so in short, suppose if any activity is going to be failed and I want to handle that exception, or I want to bypass that specific activity, then how we can do that? So that we are seeing here. Okay, now this activity is failing here, right? Because some technical exception is there, or because something is happening here, right? So that's why this activity is failing here. So this is a kind of technical exception, right? And with help of the continue on error, I want to handle this technical exception. So how we can handle that? Now if you see, this is the technical exception which I got, right? So I need to handle this. So usually what we can do here is, usually we can put try catch or try catch block mechanism, or we can use try catch block here, and inside that try catch block I can put this whole sequence, right? So this is the traditional way to handle the exception handling, right? So now for example, this is my click activity, right? Now in right hand side, if you see at the right hand side, we have different properties related to this specific activity. Now if you see here, we have one activity called as the continue on error. Continue on error. And if you see here, we have, suppose if I'll click here, right, so it will make like true, and again if I'll uncheck this, that means this is false. So by default it's a false. So what do you mean by this, right? So now by default, if I'll not changing any value here, or I am not passing any value here, that means this property is off mode. Continue on error is in a off mode, or you can see in a false. The value is equal to, by default is a false. But if I want to apply this, so I need to simply click on this option, so it will be like as a true. Continue on error true. So what do you mean by continue on error true? Means if I'll, for example, if I'll just bifurcate this keyword like continue on error, means if any exception is occurred at that specific activity, still if I want to continue with the execution of that activities, that's what continue what, continue on error. Continue on error means if error is occurred, you can continue to execute that activity. Continue on error, right? So simply I'll just make this continue on error as equal to true, and now if I'll execute this, okay, so it will not give me any error. That means I am bypassed, or I am bypassing that specific activity here, right? Now let's see how output we will get. Now if you see here, first activity gets executed. Now my cursor or my execution is now in this click editable text execute activity, or you can say this click activity is now executing, right? It will take some time because this activity is searching for the selector, notepad selector, right? And that selector is not found here basically, because now if you see here, I am not getting any issue, or I am not getting any exception, or I am not getting any error here. Because why this happened? Because I have made this continue on error activity is equal to true. Simple. And for example, now if you see right line closed, again click executed, again close, and third activity is also, that means this further activity is also going to execute. So continue on error is very important property, right? If you want to bypass that activity, if I want to go in this way, this is the one simple example on the continue on error. Now each and every activity doesn't have this, you can say, property. Now for example, if I am used attach browser, okay, if I am to use attach browser, again this activity has continue on error, right? If I'll use some another activity, type into, okay, so here also we have continue on error, right? But some activity which doesn't have that continue on error, it's up to that specific activity only, okay. Now if you see, this is a single pick activity. Inside this, if I'll put some pick branch, this is also one of the activity, right? Inside that we can use multiple activity. We will go in deep way for this pick branch and other thing, right? Now if I'll use some trigger or anything here inside that, or for example if I'll use some get position, or you can say some any other activity, right, or any other thing here. Now if you see here, this is also one of the activity, but here we don't have this continue on error. So what I'm trying to say here, what I'm trying to explain here is, so not every activity has this continue on error feature available, right? So it's up to that activity, or it's up to that functionality of that specification specific activity, we have this continue on error too, okay. But it's very useful if I want to bypass that, so we can use this continue on error true. So if I want to take a real practical exam or real time exam, so we will take this exam. For example, I'll just logged this BP travel, okay, and inside this, for example, if I'll put admin, and if I just click on this login, okay, now this pop-up, sometimes this pop-up will appear for me, sometimes this pop-up will appear for me, or sometimes this pop-up will not appear for me. that means I don't know this pop-up will at what time or at what case this pop-up is appeared for me, right? So we can handle this pop-up with help of that continue on error true. How we will see now? For example, I'll simply take one click activity here, right? Click activity, right? So I'll just put simple click activity and I'll just indicate on screen. I'll use this indicate and on screen I'll simply use this OK button. And if I'll execute this, for example, if I'll execute this, now it's simply clicked on that OK button because that OK button was presented there. And if you see, we have this continue on error because I'm using the click activity. Now for example, now it's already clicked, and again if I'll execute this bot, now that pop-up will not occurred for my bot, or that pop-up is not appear on the screen. So in this case my bot will fail, right? Because I have this click activity, and but we don't have that pop-up. So where exactly this click will you can say where exactly this click activity will execute the selector, so they don't know, right? So here in this case my bot is failing because we don't have that pop-up, right? So in this case what we can do, that means this is the exceptional case, right? So in this case what I'll do, I'll simply make this click activity, or I'll just simply make this continue on error is equal to true. Now what happened, whenever pop-up will appear, in this case my bot will click on that, and if there were no pop-up, so in this case also my bot will not fail here in this case. Now I don't have any pop-up with me, and if I'll execute this bot, so my bot will not fail here. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say here is ki with help of the continue on error we can handle the exception. Simple. So in this way we can, or you can handle the exception with help of the continue on error. Just make this continue on error property as a true whenever required, right? So in this case, if pop-up will occur, my bot will click on that OK button, and if pop-up will not occur, still my bot will execute this property, but it will not give me error. Otherwise, if I am not see, now my bot will execute successfully without any error. If I'll disable this, or if I'll just make this false, so obviously we will get error, right? So continue on error, it's an property of UIPATH activity. It's a very useful technique to handle the exception. For example, as I said, we'll simple take you can say unwanted pop-up check example, right? So this way also we can handle the exceptions, right? Fourth one, now retry scope. This is also you can say one of the useful techniques, right? Retry scope. So what is this retry scope? Now just consider this same example. For example, now what I'll do, I'll simply use, for example, UiPath, right? UiPath Milind. Right, so this is the one web page which I need to refresh it, right? What I need to do, I need to just refresh this, or if I want to just open this website and I need to perform some actions here, right? But somehow what happened, sometimes what happened, while executing or while loading the website, it will not execute properly, right? For example, I will show you now. For example, now I want to load something, or I want to read some data from a particular website, but if I'll hit the URL on the website, sometimes it will take much time, and because of that time my bot will fail, because within that time my bot will not execute the selectors. Okay, so in this case what happened, will give 3 more retry option. If at first time if my bot will fail, again my bot will again retry to load that you can say browser again. If second time also my bot will fail and my bot will not execute that you can say browser properly, again third time we will give a chance, basically, right? It's simple, it's similar like if I'll put a password, so if I'm putting wrong password, so browser, or you can say it will again ask me the retry password, similar way. So here also we'll provide the retry mechanism thrice, or you can say twice. Okay, now retry scope. Retry, so we have this activity retry scope. Which activity? If you see retry scope, what this activities does, this activity does, for example, if you see, retries the condition activities as long as the condition is not met or an error is thrown. Means if I want to execute particular condition and that condition will not give me the proper response, so again I'll try the same condition again and again, right? At least we'll get the positive response. So that is the main purpose of the retry scope, right? So simply we'll take simple example and we'll see how this activity will work, right? Now for example, as I said, I have this browser with me, right? So here what I'll do, I'll simply use attached browser. Again, now this attached, why this attached browser is used? Because I have already open this browser, I need to work on the specific browser, right? So that's what I have used, attached browser, indicate browser on screen. So here I'll just indicate this you can say browser. That means I need to perform a action on this particular screen. So that's what I have used, attached browser. Okay, now what I need to do here is, right, so here I'll use, for example, I'll use retry scope mechanism, right? I'll put this retry scope mechanism here, and if you see retry scope, so we have, like, we have continue on error as well, and here this is the important one, number of retries and retry interval. So number of retries, what do you mean by this number of retries? So how many times you want to retry your same action. If you see action and condition, so we can put, for example, at first time if my condition will not execute, again retry the same action. If second time also it's not executes, again retry the same action. So how much time or number of retries we can provide, that number of retries. For example, in our case, or I'll just provide simple three times you can retry the same action if we will not get a proper response. Okay, and retry interval means, for example, first attempt I am failed, my bot will failed. After what time I will retry the same action again. So retry interval. So here I'll simply put 0.00002 means 2 seconds, right? 2 seconds are minute and seconds. So I'll put 2 seconds. So after 2 seconds you can perform same retry action if I'll not get the positive response. Simple. Refresh this page, right? I want to just refresh this phrase. That is the main motto of the whole exercise. So to do that, what I'll do, I'll simply use click activity, right? So here I'll use click activity, right? Click activity, and here I'll simply use, see, simple click. Okay, and also they have added one condition here. Condition means, for example, here to add on that means additional information they required here. So I'm using one element exist, right? So here I'll use some condition like element exist, right? So element exist means, now what I need to check here, I need to check the, once I'll load this search.yahoo.com, this page will loaded properly or not. That I'm checking with this example. How we can check that? Now once this page will fully load, that means all this like Yahoo, that sign option or other option will you can say appeared properly. So I'm taking this Yahoo as a text here, element exist. So here I'll use this element. If this Yahoo will appear for me properly, that means this website will loaded properly. If this will not loaded properly, that means this Yahoo will not appear for me properly. So again I will retry again. If second time also my page will not load, again I'll try third time. So that's what I have provide retry as a 3 times, and I will provide retry interval as equal to 2 seconds. After 2 seconds you can retry the same you can say option, right? And here if you see element exist activity, why this element exist activity is used, that also we will see in a little bit on after this you can say session. Okay, so here element exist activity is basically used to check this element is appeared or not, right? This element is appeared or not, and what is the output of this element exist activity? It will provide me boolean option, or you can say boolean output. For example, var bool. Now if I want to check that, so simply what I can do here, I can just now if I want to check this Yahoo button or this Yahoo element is available or not inside or in this skin. So what how we can do that? I'll simply use one element exist activity. I'll just check this element with help of this element exist, and I am just used the output value like variable bool. And with help of the if condition, now if I want to check this element exists or not, I simply what I'll do, inside this I'll just use if condition, and inside this if condition I'll simply use this where exist, if where exist is equal to, you can say true. That means if this element is exists, then you can execute this. Otherwise, if that element will not execute, you will execute this, right? But in this case we don't require this if, because I'm only checking this if this element exists, or if that Yahoo element will exist here, that means my page will fully loaded. That's what this condition I have used here, right? Now for example, how this retry will work. Okay, so to achieve or to see how this retry scope will work, so I'll just use one write line inside this, and I'll put retry scope execution started, right? This is my first message, and at the end I'll use one more message, ended, just like that. Okay, I simply use ended, right? Simple. Now if I'll execute this, okay, it will click on that button basically. Okay, because it will fine. Now we'll see my bot will execute that or not. Okay, so it will try to execute that. Let's see if this executes. If my bot will not execute this particular, you can say, refresh button, again my bot will try to execute the same button. Okay, and second attempt also, if my bot will not execute that button, again it will try for third time. Okay, so that we need to see. Okay, so if you see, see, first time my bot will fail, right? At first time my bot will fail. If I'll run this again, now second time my bot is trying to click on that specific button. That means my bot is taking the same action at a second time, because I have used retry scope. I am retrying, my bot is retrying the same action because my bot is failing. Why failing? Because I'm not getting that specific selector. Okay, let's see. See, second time it's failed. Again I'll click on the see, now it's again try to execute at a third time as well, right? So that means my bot is failing, but I have just tried third time. After third time it will fail. That means it will go out of this loop, and it will as consider as a exceptional, right? So here what I'll do, I'll just change the selector. Okay, because this selector is not proper one, that's why my bot is failing here. So I'll use now this particular selector here, and if I'll validate this, see, if I'll highlight this, now it will highlight for me, right? Now if I'll execute this, okay, now if I'll execute this, right, see, now if I'll execute my bot, see, now my bot will execute that, right? It will execute that now, and it will execute, and my bot will execute successfully. That means if at first attempt or second attempt or third attempt this activity will get execute successfully, that means it's successful, right? As we see. But again if I'll try multiple times it, and if again and again if I'll try that with help of the retry scope, and if I'm not getting the positive response, then my bot will fail. But at least with help of the retry scope activity, we can give the you can say 3-time approach to my bot. Okay, so it's also, you can say, very important activity. So retry scope activity is provide option to execute same action twice or thrice. Depends on us. depends on developer, right? So retry scope, this is also a, you can say very good, or you can say it's very useful activity, right? So retry scope. Now we'll see like what is this terminate workflow. So now for example, if I want to, if any particular condition, if I want to forcefully stop my bot, then in this case I can use terminate workflow. Simple. Terminate workflow means if I want to stop my bot in a particular condition, forcefully if I want to stop my bot, then I can use the terminate workflow activity. For example, I'll take simple example here. If I have one assign activity, and here I'll just create one where int 1 is equal to integer, and here where int, I'll just mention that where int 1 is equal to 10. For example, this is my use case, and if in as per my use case, if I'll got the value as a 10, I want to stop my bot forcefully, right? So that's what I'll use. If inside this if where int is equal to 10, then I will use terminate workflow. If you see what is the terminate workflow, terminate this workflow forcefully. If you see, terminates the running workflow instance, raise the system.activities workflow application, combines event the host and the error information, reports the error information. Once the workflow is terminated, it can be resumed. Means now with help of this activity, now why this termination is happened, so we'll give any you can say messenger. For example, the value is 10, so I want terminate my workflow, right? So now I have provided this, okay. Value is 10, so stop the workflow, okay, workflow. Now if I'll execute this, okay, now whichever workflow is executing, my bot will stop here with help of this terminate workflow activity. If you see, value is 10, so stop the workflow, means now here my bot will stop here, right? So terminate workflow activity is also used if I want to stop, if I want to stop my bot execution, so we can use the terminate workflow activity. Simple. So continue on error, terminate workflow, and retry scope, right? So continue on error, if any error occurred, but still with that error if I want to proceed further, then we can use continue on error. This is a property, right? Each and every activity, they have some properties, so there are a lot of properties, or there are a lot of activities which has this continue on error property. You can use this property as per your requirement, right? Second, terminate workflow. As I said, if I want to, if any condition is occurred at extreme level, if I want to stop my bot, right, if I want to stop my bot in an extreme level, so with help of the terminate workflow activity, that means I am stopping my bot, that means I am handling such kind of exception. So that's what terminate workflow. Retry scope, I am providing a particular, you can say, scope to my bot to execute the same action again and again. So retry scope, I am retrying the same action again and again because I need a positive response or positive result. So that's what retry scope activities is provide option to execute same action twice, or you can say thrice up to my requirement. Okay, got it? So that's fine.